The Cartoonerific podcast is sponsored by the wonderful world of Animation Gallery, home of rare and wonderful fine animation art. Visit their website at wwagallery.com. And for our Cartoonerific listeners, you will receive a special 10% discount off any purchase if you purchase by March 25th, 2024. Just go to wwagallery.com and enter code CARTOON10 for your 10% discount. Once again, this discount is only valid until midnight, March 25th, 2024. Once again, visit wwagallery.com.
The following is a Cartoonerific Studios presentation.
Welcome to Cartoon Fun, it's Cartoonerific, yeah! It's Cartoonerific, Cartoonerific, it's Cartoonerific, with your host Brian Mitchell.
Well, hello. This is Brian Mitchell, and welcome to the Cartoonerific podcast, classic animated cartoons. I'm your host. Today we have on a very special guest. Not like you haven't heard that before, because I say that all the time. This person is a special guest. This is a special guest. That person over there is a special guest. We're all special guests. So, but he is a very special he's a very special guest. I worked with him centuries ago at Warner Brothers Animation in Sherman Oaks, California. We worked on a bunch of different shows, including Tiny Toons and Animaniacs. Those were the first versions of that cartoon. And then he went on, he worked on a whole bunch of other things for Warner Brothers. And he did some time over at Disney working on the 7D, and then came back to Warner Brothers. So he's primarily a Warner Brothers guy that's kind of dabbled with Disney for a little bit and then back to Warner Brothers. But he's a great artist and a wonderful director, and his name is Charles Visser. And he's going to be on in just a few minutes.
And now, it's time for Cartoonerific News.
Well, I just happened to be in the store the other day. We have a bookstore. It's one of the big stores in New York for books. And just happened to find this memoir from Don Bluth, and it's called Somewhere Out There. I wonder where he got that title from. But anyway, it's about his career in animation before, how he got into it, and then all the different films he worked on and his experiences creating his own studio. And it's a very fun read. So if you don't know about it, you should know about it right now. Don Bluth, his book is Somewhere Out There, My Animated Life. I've only covered a few chapters so far. And it's a good read. It's not going to give you a whole lot behind the scenes at Disney. It gives you a little bit here and there. So it's not going to give you a tremendous amount of information. It's just basically his life, And so he covers that stuff kind of briefly. He's hitting, basically big points. So don't expect any of that. You can get more of that actually out of the John Canemaker book about the 9 Old Men that kind of talks more behind the scenes and people's interactions with different animators and stuff like that and working on these different scenes. So I got more of that out of John Canemaker's book. But this is still an excellent read. And if you like Don Bluth or interested in animation in general, it's a good book to get. It's not that expensive. It's only somewhere around the $22 range. You might be able to find it cheaper somewhere else, maybe on Amazon or something like that. So definitely, it's recommended. Don Bluth's Somewhere Out There, My Animated Life, available now. So look for it and pick up your copy. It is a good read. So there. Anyway, we have an excellent podcast today with Mr. Charles Visser. Let's do that again. Mr. Charles Visser. And he, like I said, he is a director of your favorite animated shows. He's going to be on next. Please stay tuned. Don't go away.
Cartoonerific is the place to be to celebrate hand-drawn animated cartoons. The Cartoonerific podcast features interviews with the magic makers behind your favorite animated cartoons, with episodes uploaded every Friday. Or visit the Cartoonerific blog featuring articles about classic cartoon animation. At the Cartoonerific Gallery, view original animation art and memorabilia from your favorite animated films and TV shows. The company store features exclusive swag from the Cartoonerific universe. And coming soon, brand new world premiere cartoons on the Cartoonerific channel. It's all here. Join the fun at www.cartoonerific.com. That's cartoon, ERIFIC.com. It's Cartoonerific, saving the universe one funny cartoon at a time. And now it's time for our special Cartoonerific guest.
Boy, is this guy special. He's probably the most special guest that we've had on this show. We're 20 episodes now. And I worked with him years ago. He's an excellent artist, but he was a great storyboard guy. My God. I worked on a ton of shows over at Warner Brothers, and then he went on to do a bunch of different things, but he's worked on everything from Scooby-Doo, Tom and Jerry, Animaniacs, Tiny Toon Adventures, the 7D. This is all off the top of my head. I'm not reading this off a list, and he probably thinks I am, but I'm not. So everybody welcome. Please put your hands up in the air. Chant. Charles Visser. How you doing, Charles?
I am doing good, Brian. How are you, sir?
I am doing wonderful. I'm over here. I have a big cup of Dunkin' Donuts coffee, and I'm raring to go. So,
I should have done that. I said Dunkin' Donuts. Well, donuts.
Here, I'm sure the audience will wait about 20 minutes while you run out and get one. So, so Charles, now we've known each other for a long time. So how'd you get your start? I mean, we're going to go back. We're going to go back to like when you were like before a baby. How'd you get? How'd you? What were the influences? What did you like when you were growing up, and how'd you work your way into wanting to become an animation guy?
Oh wow! Well, like most animators I know, cartoons came on really young. I probably was in front of the TV more than I should have been. More than my parents definitely wanted to. Right.
Well, I think I was kind of in the same spot because, while I was electrocuting myself with sockets and stuff in between the shows.
I think it was just one of those things where, you wanted to draw and be an artist. And then when you saw that stuff on TV, you went, I want to do that. Much to my parents' chagrin, where they're going, you can't make money doing that.
Yeah, I think we all heard that. It's like you're going to starve, and it's almost like they tell you that with it. It's almost like some glee in there,
It does seem that way. I mean, I know my parents came from out of the Depression, Second World War, and all that fun stuff. But...
Right, all that fun stuff. Yeah, those were the days.
The good old days.
The good old days. And people starved for a living. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think once I knew that you could make it or have a career drawing, funny pictures, it was just trying to figure out how to do that.
Right. Were there any specific cartoons like when you were when you were like 5 or 6 that really inspired you?
Well, I mean, yeah, we all grew up on Disney films back in the day when they were just in theaters because videotape didn't exist yet.
Right.
Obviously, there was no CDs or internet. So you were limited to the movies that came out and whatever was on TV.
Right.
My parents didn't really let me watch Saturday morning cartoons, so I usually had to sneak over to my friend's house to go do that.
Wait, you went over to your friend's house to watch Saturday morning cartoon? Hey, I'm going over Bill's house.
Yeah, I'm going.
Yeah, we're gonna play catch, and you just sat down with a big old box of cereal. Yeah,
that was usually later. They didn't let me out of the house till 9 o'clock or something. That was their usual chore day. Was Saturdays.
Right, overdose. Yeah, Saturday overdosing on cartoons and sugar.
Overdosing on cartoons and sugar.
Yeah, and coffee. Yeah.
At least back in those days, like after school, you were okay to watch TV.
Right.
And you could watch all the old Looney Tunes stuff. Oh gosh, some of the old, Popeye stuff.
Yeah.
Tunes, all those old cartoons were there.
Did you have Hanna-Barbera in your life?
Yeah, absolutely.
Were they your babysitter, like when you were growing up, or was it?
No,
yeah,
no.
Bill and Joe, they came over. They sat on their laps, and Bill
and Joe were Saturday morning, so everything you saw on Saturday morning at Hanna-Barbera, and it's like, who's this Iwo Takamoto guy, man? He does everything.
Yeah. I had Willie Ito on a few weeks ago, and he basically did layout on every single Hanna-Barbera show. Him and Jerry Eisenberg and
Jerry's a sweetheart.
Yeah, but I mean, I grew up on all that stuff. The Wacky Races and the Pearls of Penelope Pit Stop and Scooby. The when Scooby Doo was good. I mean, it's good now that you worked on it, but back then, it was in between when Hanna-Barbera was like,
incarnation was fun. I mean, there was some slack. We'll say there's definitely some slack.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when they threw Don Knotts into the mix. I
love that one.
Hi, kids. Yeah.
Actually, I mean, I know I'm jumping ahead, but when I was working on Scooby-Doo and Guess Who, the first show I worked on was going to be with Sandy Duncan.
Oh, wow. Sandy Duncan.
It's like, how old is she now?
I don't even want to venture to guess how old Sandy Duncan is, because she's been. I'm just trying to think. She made a film for Disney that's a classic. It's in the top 100 films of all time. The $1 Million Duck.
Oh God, I remember that growing up. No. And
it's not. I'm sorry, people. It's not in the top 100. I'm pulling your leg.
Right above the Boatniks, Brian.
Some people like that movie. Oh, geez, the Boatniks. Yeah. Okay. So everybody's going to be looking up that movie. I wonder if it's on Disney Plus.
I don't think so.
I don't think they put it on there. I think they're embarrassed.
$1 Million Duck might be. But if you look under classics.
I think it's not an animated movie, but it has an animated opening by Ward Kimball.
Yeah.
$1 Million Duck. And maybe that's the reason why I liked it so much. But there was a guy in there, Pete Renaday, that did a lot of voices for Disney attractions and record albums, and he makes a grand appearance in that as I think it was an FBI agent, but with Joe Flynn.
Okay. Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, he's in a lot of movies. He's uncredited in some of those Disney films, but
well, I think that was still I think it was at the end of the studio system, so there was still contract actors at that point.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because Universal had a contract crew too.
Yeah.
But I think Disney was like, I think at that point they weren't in-house. They weren't doing one project to another. And it became, they still hired them though. They still hired.
Absolutely. Well,
Joe Flynn, Dean Jones.
Jones.
Yeah.
All those guys. Cesar Romero.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
They were just great character guys, and a lot of them came out of vaudeville too. So
Right.
they knew what to do.
Right.
And they were very good too.
Okay, let's shoot back from the Disney live action. We'll get so anyway, yeah. So where were we? We're talking about your, you being inspired.
Influences in the back. So I'd say that some of my greatest influences, and it's probably where my humor comes from, is definitely the Warner Brothers classic, Looney Tunes, and probably all of the Tex Avery stuff.
Yeah.
As far as heroes go, I'd say Tex is one of my biggest heroes.
Yes. Yeah. Did you like you must love the Droopy cartoons then, right?
Oh, Droopy. Yeah. Droopy's fantastic.
Yeah. Those are wonderful cartoons. Yeah. I kind of discovered that stuff in the 70s because, I'm yeah. So.
And back then it wasn't edited yet. You would see somebody pull out a gun and shoot somebody, which is definitely not kosher nowadays.
Yeah, you can't do that in new Warner Brothers. I think you have to use a feather or something to like.
I've had everything. It's like, it's got to be like a bubble gun.
Right.
It can just be like something stupid, like you can have them carry a club, but it can't be like a large mallet. It's like what?
Right. Mm.
Like, they'll both bash your brain in, but
right. So Tex Avery. Did you like the Tom and Jerry's from MGM? Yeah.
I think for some weird reason, I don't know if it was just the TV out here, they didn't run those as much. And if they did, it was probably they ran them earlier in the morning.
Right.
Local TV out here in California. So
no, they ran them. I think CBS here had them. CBS had the Tom and Jerry's in the 60s and early 70s, and I remember watching them like really early in the morning, which was probably not the greatest time for them to be on. They were on it was a Tom and Jerry show, and it was the Chuck Jones bumpers for that, and I think Tom Ray actually put those together. Tom Ray was an animator. He was actually an assistant at MGM, and then he went to Warner's as an animator, and he animated on the Chuck Jones unit. And we worked with him. We worked with Tom Ray. That was exciting to work with Tom Ray.
We had Tom Ray, Norm McCabe, and Charlie Adler, correct?
No, Charlie Downs.
Charlie Downs, and for a short time there, Alex Lovey, who directed. That's right. He directed Woody Woodpecker, and Alex sat in my cube for a little while.
wait, he sat in your cubicle? Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason, he came in, and I don't think there was a spot for him yet.
Right.
So I think I had him sitting in my cubicle space for.
He wasn't there. He wasn't there for too long.
No, I think he was just there for a special project. I can't, 30 years ago, so it's hard to remember. Exactly.
Yeah, it's a long time ago. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. He came in, he sat across from me, and I'm like looking at this he's a little guy, and he's hunched over the table, and I didn't know who he was. I walked over to him and I said, "Hi, I'm Brian Mitchell. I'm sure you've heard of me." And no, I didn't. No, I introduced myself, and he goes, I'm Alex Lovey, and I probably didn't talk like that. I'm sorry, but trying to come up with an old guy voice. But no, he was very nice. And I said, Alex Lovey, what are you doing here? You directed all those Woody Woodpeckers and Hanna-Barbera. You worked on early Hanna-Barbera stuff, and he was the man, Yeah. But he said, "Yep, that's me," and then I didn't see him after that.
No, those early times, it just seems like there was a lot of people in there. You had Artley and Artie there for a while.
Artley and Artie. I keep saying I got to get him on here.
Yes, you should. He's by far got so many more stories.
Well, I want to talk to him about, Willie Ito kind of gave us some information about the Warner Brothers studio, like in its last legs, and I'm sure Art could probably give us more information about that. But I'd like to have him on about Patty Freeling. Talk to him about that.
Yeah.
Because he was Mr. DePatty Freeland. He really was. His look is all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, his name wasn't on the title, but yeah, he was definitely there.
Yeah, I mean,
Panther, all that stuff.
yeah, yeah. So he was instrumental. He was like the jack of all trades over there. He was like the Ken Anderson of Disney. And people are probably listening to this and they're going, "Who the heck is Ken Anderson?" Okay, so I'm just doing an aside very quick. Ken Anderson was the jack of all trades at Disney. He did. I think that clears it up now.
He does.
Yeah. No, Ken Anderson was I think he was a color guy. He was a color art director, color stylist. I think he started in backgrounds and layout, and he actually became instrumental in leading off on the story. Well, Bill Pete was involved with that, but he would do the design. He would do some sketches of the, of what he felt the characters should look like. Yeah.
It's now called VizDev, visual development.
Visual development. Yeah, but that's what he did. And he worked right up until, I want to say, Pete's Dragon. Maybe that's the last thing he did.
1975, 76, I think, somewhere in there.
Yes, yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah, and then he retired. I ended up meeting him 10 years later. Very, very nice guy.
Yes.
But anyway, back to your career. Because everybody, we're doing these sidelines here. So Tex Avery, Tom and Jerry. I'm sure you loved all the Warner Brothers stuff.
I loved all the Warner Brothers stuff, all the Bugs, Daffys. Even if you look back at those early Porkies in the 30s, those are great.
Yeah, all that stuff is wonderful.
It's wonderful stuff.
I'm really, I haven't said this, but in any of the podcasts, and I'm going to say this now. My dad and I used to love to sit down and watch The Roadrunner. Not the later ones, the really good ones by Chuck Jones.
The early ones. Not
the ones by Format Films or whatever. But he would laugh, and he used to tell me stories. And I'm sorry if we're getting off the beaten track here, but he used to tell me stories that when he was in the service, they used to run those cartoons. They would run the Roadrunner cartoons for the servicemen, and it would always get like a fantastic reaction. So, when I hear people say, "Oh yeah, that stuff is for kids," it really was not.
It's definitely not for kids.
And I realized that at a young age. Even Disney's films were aimed for all ages.
Oh no.
So anyway, you were inspired by all this stuff, and so when did you make the decision to? When did you tell your parents that I want to become a starving artist?
Well, when I was probably in my early teens and stuff like that, or actually early high school, I remember seeing an ad for Disneyland. I was looking for people to work.
Oh.
And just work at the park. So, I applied for that.
Right.
And through my time there, I found out that there was a school for animation called Cal Arts.
How old were you when you got in? I'm sorry. How old were you when you got into Disneyland?
Let's see. I was still in high school, so I was probably about 19 years old at Disneyland.
Wow. Okay.
I worked there at least 5-6 years, maybe 6 years.
6 years. 6 years at Disneyland?
6 years at Disney.
Did they keep moving you up? Like,
yeah, I was like a crew lead, and then it was just like, because I was not doing anything fun. I was in food service.
Right. I'm sure people appreciated being fed.
It was a machine, Brian. It was a machine.
It was a machine. What areas? You said to me earlier you worked in Bear Country over there.
Yeah.
So where'd you work? Where'd you work there?
I actually started out at the Mile Long Bar, which I don't know if it's still there or not anymore.
Right.
But it's claimed to fame. It was right off the exit to the Bear Country Jamboree.
Right.
And the reason it had its name is they had put mirrors on both sides of the bar. So if anybody knows anything about physics, mirrors reflect each other. So obviously it looked like it was mile long, just infinity.
Right. Kind of like the Haunted Mansion with that hallway with the mirror trick.
Yeah, same sort of principle.
Yeah. That's kind of neat. And then they thought you were doing so wonderful there that they moved you over to...
Yeah, the big restaurant.
The Hungry Bear.
The Hungry Bear.
The Hungry Bear.
No, I mean, Disneyland is, well, that job was just, like a job. Lots of good people.
Right.
It's a magical place to go.
How many times did you see the Country Bear Jamboree since you worked over?
Thousands.
Did it make you nauseous?
I went so far as to buy a soundtrack album.
Oh, yeah. Did you have that? Wait, did you have that music pumped in? The side two of that record album?
There was background music always playing.
Yeah, was it like Bang Goes Old Betsy or something like
banjo music? And that was, if you have the Country Bear album, side B is that background music.
Right.
So that's what they were playing.
That's what they were playing. So is it still rattling around your head? And you go to sleep and it's like dun 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 dun. Do you wake up to that?
Not sure it was. I can memorize it like do 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 do.
Yeah.
Over again.
So you found out there that there was a school for animation. Who told you that?
I think they actually had like a company newspaper or something like that.
Oh yeah, the House Organ.
Yeah, well, no, it was called something else. I can't remember what Disney.
The Disneyland Gazette or something like that, right?
I think it was the Disneyland Line. That's what.
Oh, that's what it was. Disneyland Line, right? I have a copy somewhere.
Yeah, and they had articles from all over the company. And one article one day was about Cal Arts, the kids at Cal Arts. I'm going, wow, I got to find out more about this. So
right,
and
I was trying to find out about that school, and I called somebody. I'm going to make this quick. I called somebody over there, and it was a young girl that picked up, and I said, "Is this the school that like Walt Disney kind of got going?" She said, "Walt Disney? No. I was like, I got my information wrong. It's funny now. It wasn't funny then because I was like, oh, there's another Cal Arts, So
yeah, it was fun to find out about that place.
Yeah. Did you go?
Yeah. Once I found out what it was about, how did we find out about it? Without the use of computer. God, we've been doing computers so long now. I think you just have to look it up.
You either look it up or you call somebody about it.
Yeah.
Because that's the way I found out about stuff. I'd talk to somebody. Oh, you should talk to this guy, or you should call this place because somebody else knew about it. And you found out about it from other people. Yeah. Unless it was in the newspaper, there wasn't a whole lot. You couldn't do the research, or you found a book that actually said something, but normally it wasn't that way.
In those days, you had the library. That was it.
You had the library, yeah. And then, of course, all the information was old because, the book might have been from the 50s and those contacts weren't there, So, okay, so did you call them or did you actually go there?
I think I called and I found out how to apply. I think I applied, they sent me some information on what I needed to apply to that particular character animation book. Right. So I applied and said, oh, you need to show life drawing, you need to show character, you need to show, any sort of thing that would prove that you love animation, this is what you want to do.
Right. That you're worthy. That you're worthy of getting
that you're worthy to get in the program.
Right.
So I did all that. I think I spent a few months, and if I didn't have something, I created it. Like I know they wanted us to do character. of ourselves. It's like, I don't have a character of myself.
Right.
They wanted it in black and white color. So I think I took like a several days or a week or something like that and drew a picture of myself. First was black and white, and then his color, just to make sure that I had every, button covered that they said needed to be in the portfolio.
Right.
They wanted like a storyboard scene. So I drew like a rough storyboard. Yeah.
Right. And so you sent the stuff in, and they called you up, and they said, "Eureka!" What?
They did send me a letter.
Oh,
it was a letter of acceptance. Congratulations.
There you go.
And I think I jumped up and down, when I got that. Woohoo! I'm in.
Right. I had who was it? Who was it that I contacted? It was Jack Hanna was heading up the program. And so I wanted to see if I could get in, And so I called him up, and I talked to him for a little bit, and he said, "Well, why don't you send me some of your stuff, and then we'll, And so I sent him some stuff, and then he basically I called him maybe a week later, and he said, "Yeah, I looked at it." He said, "Yeah, I think you could get in here." It wasn't rousing, I mean, I got more enthusiasm from John Pomeroy when I sent him some drawings. And he said, "You draw, you draw pretty good." He said, your drawings remind me of Fred Moore." And I was maybe 19.
That's a nice compliment.
Yeah. But I didn't take it as that because, I heard Fred Moore was this failed artist that died young, and I didn't take it because everything I read in like The Illusion of Life said, "Oh yeah, he couldn't keep up and stuff like that." So I took it that way, like, oh, but it's a really high compliment.
It's a very high compliment.
Yeah. So I was, but that's what happened there. But anyway. So what happened? You got accepted, and
I got accepted.
Did your parents jump up and down for joy, or?
Well, I think they were happy for me, but I think that concern was like, how's he going to make a living doing this was still with them.
Right. So when was that? What year was that?
I started Cal Arts in fall of 1985.
Wow. Okay. And then you were there for how long?
I'm one of those guys that actually stayed the full 4 years. So
wow.
I stayed until 89.
Wow. Because a lot of guys were like pulled out of the school,
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there was,
I'm not saying that's not a good thing that you stayed for 4 years, because I was offered something when I was 19, and I basically, I said, no, I want to stay in school. And I stayed in school and starved for the next 10 years until I got a job. But because nothing was going on, after Don Bluth did his thing, it was like I was in New York.
Yeah.
So
the still business in New York was mostly commercial stuff back then.
Yeah, but it wasn't, we didn't have big studios. We had these little boutique places that had maybe 2 guys on staff, 2 animators on staff. And Xander's Animation Parlor was the quality place here. And they were very rarely hiring anybody. They had their people. So, they did their commercials. They brought the same people back, and they just ended up doing it. So it wasn't like we had a ton of stuff going on here, and that was tough. And then every time I try to break in, because they had a union here, every time I try to get in, they say, "Well, you got to get a job first." And I'd be like, "Yeah, but nobody wants to hire me because I'm not in the union." And they said, "Well,
it's like a catch-22 back
yeah." And they played that game in Los Angeles too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can't get a union unless you're a union member. You can't become a union member unless you have a union job.
Yeah.
Huh?
No, it was really weird thing. And then finally I nailed somebody, on this. And I said, "Look, it sounds like you're just, putting people through the ringer here." And it was somebody at the union, I forgot, and who it was. It wasn't like Steve Hewlett or anybody like that at the time. It was somebody else. And so he kind of gritted his teeth and he said, "If they really want you, you'll get in."
Yeah. And that's exactly what happened back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
As what is now called the second golden age, I guess they call it.
Yeah. Well, the second golden age where they're churning out Don Bluth, putting out all these wonderful The Troll in Central Park and The Pebble and the Penguin.
All of it.
Yeah, but they're great. Nice animation.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that was it Roger Rabbit? Probably, I'd say, with what ushered in that era.
Yeah.
And everyone said, "Hey, maybe animation can make some money." Yeah.
Well, I think it was. Give Don Bluth some credit here because I just promoted his book at the beginning of this thing. I don't know if you heard about Somewhere Out There. It's actually a good book. It's a good book.
Yeah.
But I was hoping that it would go deep into some of the background stuff, and it kind of glosses over a lot of things. But at least you know who he was, or who he is.
Well, he came out of the Disney studio. He was disgruntled at that time and then left and did Banjo.
But I think it wasn't Secret of Nim that really kicked animation back into prominence. I think it was American Tail, Line Before Time, and then Disney started really ramping up with Oliver and Company, and then Rescuers Down Under was okay, and then but it was The Little Mermaid that all of a sudden it was like, oh, they actually captured magic, again. Yeah. So, okay. So you went for the full 4 years, and then when you came, so what happened then? You were done, you graduated. You got the big,
my degree.
Yeah.
And then it was like, got to find something to do. So I was looking around, and I think the only thing I got was a tryout. For Garfield. Yeah, I was thinking for the Garfield show. It wasn't even like, it's just like a little freelance gig.
At Film Roman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was like the first thing I ever got. It was like my first $500. Woohoo! I made it.
You're a professional now.
I'm a professional. So that was, I was like, oh, okay, I can do it. But being new to the business and nobody knowing who you were, it was really just, it was tough that first year.
Yeah, it's a fishing expedition.
It is.
Yeah.
And, I called a couple of friends from school, and I found out about Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers was looking for people for Tiny Toons.
Yeah.
Joey Benaskowitz.
Joey Benaskowitz was one of the people. Yeah, Steve Lewis.
Yeah, all those guys.
Steve Lewis he is fast at doing these layout drawings, which is background drawings, and he was doing all the backgrounds for all the cartoons for our unit. You were in the Ken. Were you in the Ken Boyer unit?
I actually started out in Rich Adams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's how I got my foot in the door. Is I showed my CalArts film, The Rich, which was like a parody of James Bond, and he was a big James Bond fan, so he loved it.
Right.
I got hired on his crew on the layout.
Wow. So you got hired to do character layout. You remember who you were working with at the time over there?
Let's see. Rusty was on it.
Rusty Mills, who he passed away some years ago now.
Yeah.
Or 10 years ago, maybe, or Rusty he became a director. And
Jim Gomez was on it, and
Jim Gomez from Spumco. Who else?
Charlie Bean was also on it.
Who was that?
Charlie Bean.
Charlie Bean. Another great artist. He ended up working on the Tron animated show. Yeah.
And Garrett Ho.
Garrett Ho. Another great talent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how's he doing, by the way, Garrett Ho?
Garrett, as far as I know, he's doing okay. He's officially retired now.
Wow. How old is he?
I think he's about our age. I know he was having health problems before.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he lost part of his leg to diabetes. So,
Oh, wow. Sorry. Well,
but he's doing good.
okay, good. As good as he can do, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. So you're working on that unit for Tiny Toon. Is there any specific show that you
Well, that was the weird thing. It's like, I came in, I think I actually applied to that position twice.
right.
Originally, I was supposed to go on Leonardi, but it sort of fell through.
Art Leonardi's? Yeah.
Yeah. So then I came back in with Rich, and by that time, I think they were already pretty much through that first season,
Right.
but they still needed to fill out the last couple of shows, and they were having issues with one of the shows. I think I was working on the special,
The 65th anniversary show?
No, it was what was going to be the premiere episode.
Oh, okay.
They were doing retake animation, layout fixes, and stuff like that.
Right.
So I was working on that.
Right. And, I was on and off Tiny Toons. Like I kind of came on because I was working at Bluth. I got hired by Ken Boyer. Ken Boyer hired me.
Uh-huh.
And we had worked at Bakshi the year before. And so, or maybe 2 years before, I don't know. But anyway, he hired me and I came on and I was there for, it feels like a couple of months. And then I went back to Bluth because they offered me more money.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And then we had problems. I guess we had problems over there, and then I left again, and finished up on Tiny Toons. I guess I did some of the last episodes, but I was a storyboard artist at that point.
Yeah,
coming back. Yeah, and so I don't. We were working together. I guess we were all in this bullpen, but I think that was kind of later when we were working on Animaniacs.
Well, yeah. As Tiny Toons was winding down, we knew Animaniacs was happening, and it was very weird at that time. It never happened before, but the studio decided to keep everybody on because they knew there was another show coming.
Yeah, but it was downtime for, I want to say 6 to 8 months.
At least.
Yeah.
At least. We were told to develop stuff as much as we could.
Right. And that's what we did. I mean, I think we goofed around a lot, because there was really there was nothing being assigned. It was just okay, you just hang out, and that was driving me nuts because it was
they were more concerned about losing artists at that time because Disney was ramping up and Amblin was ramping up.
Yeah, everybody was stealing artists. Well, I don't want to say stealing. They were wooing people from, like Disney was trying to hold on to their people. And we had Brian Seaburn, who was a background guy, who was a key Disney guy. Ann Gunther was a key Disney person, and she was working at Warner's. And we would get, all of a sudden, we'd get these talents coming in. And then we had young talents coming up that were pretty amazing. But everybody was fighting, I mean, Warner's called me and took me from Bluth. And we had other Bluth people working there for a short time before they went on to Disney and stuff. So it was, it was a weird time, but it was also a great time for us artists because we were actually getting paid well, and that was good.
Yeah, and there was a lot of opportunities. Like I started out character layout, but I wanted to do more, and they let me try out for storyboard.
Right.
So I did a storyboard, and they said, "Okay,
there you go."
Storyboard.
Who were you assigned to for that? Because they assigned these directors got the pick of who they're going to have storyboard for them. So
for that, I think I got transferred to Byron Vaughn's.
Oh, okay.
Made Byron a director. So started working for Byron.
For Byron.
Right.
And Byron was, and he is, I think he's okay. I haven't heard from him.
Again, I think he's now retired, and I believe he's living Mississippi, Missouri, somewhere out there.
Oh, okay. Byron was this very, very loose artist. I mean, he was, when I mean that, his drawings were just, thick black pencil,
Oh, he could draw. I mean, he could draw. He had a tendency to do formula type drawing, but he could draw.
I think when you have to like churn the stuff out, you tend to do that though. I think you tend to just go, well, this will work. And you kind of do it instead of exploring a little bit more like what you could do. And I have to admit, I got stuck in that too.
Well, he came out of the 70s system, which was, let's face it, animation in the 70s was crap.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're working for like Filmation or whatever, they're just churning that stuff out. But at least Filmation's product, at least, the cleanups were very careful on the cleanup. It was never any funky looking drawing.
No, they're very good, and their system was actually quite smart. They put money in where they needed to, so they do what we call stock scenes. So if somebody would fully animate something like a character riding on a horseback,
right? But then they would reuse that. They'd find a way of reusing that for every single episode.
Sure. I mean, you'd see the same horse in Brave Star, and again in the Lone Ranger, and you might even see it in Tarzan. Who knows?
There was I don't know where I heard this from, but I think there was some storyboard artist that was challenged to do his entire storyboard from stock.
Oh,
do you remember this story?
Yeah, Barry Caldwell once told me that he did a storyboard for Filmation, and basically he would draw like 3 to 5 panels, and then he would put down the information for the stock scene. It's like, you scene, blah, 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 sequence, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then he would go on to the next bit and then draw again, a few more scenes, and then go next stock sequence.
There you go. Well, I know there was some wager, and this is a story that basically a storyboard artist would basically use all these stock poses and create the storyboard from that with not one new drawing done. And I don't know what show it was, but it always struck me pretty funny, that was the case. And I'm sure that was the cheapest show that Filmation ever produced. Because, but
I'm sure they tried.
Yeah.
That sounds like an accountant's wet dream.
Jeez. Oh my God. So when you were doing a storyboard, you were working for
Byron.
Yeah, and then on Animaniacs, right?
Actually, I think we before Animaniacs started, we started doing these specials, those Tiny Toons specials.
That's right.
We did the
13
Tiny Toons Spring Break.
Right.
And we did the Tiny Toons Halloween special.
That's right.
And I boarded on both of them. So
yeah. So that's right. So we did. So they squeezed that stuff in. And I think the whole staff got like a couple of, maybe a page or so.
I know. I think I boarded. I know on the Halloween special, I boarded the Sneezer, the Sneezing Ghost. That's my short.
I think the Spring Break special. That's the one with Tommy Lee Jones in it, right? Is that the one?
The Spring Break special was. I thought that was the one where it was like a couple of vignette stories. You had Plucky and Hampton going to the water on a trip to the amusement park,
right?
And Babs and Buster on the river trip.
Wasn't Elmira have a segment in there? I don't remember. I did this whole thing with Tommy Lee Jones where Elmira sees him and she stuffs him into a hole on the beach and just keeps ramming this stick. And I just remember the script because I only had like a page or two from it, and Tom Ruger put notes on it: milk. And I remember watching it, and it was getting like a huge laugh because basically she was just really destroying them.
I think that was the edict, was rip on celebrities at that point. I mean, God, we must have really ripped Roseanne Barr all the time, and Arnold Schwarzenegger all the time.
Yeah. You ever see? You ever see the thing about Prince?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think it's kind of it's kind of a famous thing. It's kind of a dirty
on the Animaniacs one where
it's a dirty joke.
Detectives, and it's like I got holds up Prince and said, "I found Prince," and it's like,
right?
You got a fingerprint? No, fingerprint.
And she goes, "I don't think so.
I don't think so."
Yeah.
It's like, how the hell did we get that by?
I have no idea. They weren't listening. It's a cartoon. What could they possibly do? It's Prince. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff like that.
Like, what was the punchline to the Lake Titicaca episode?
Oh, boy.
I think the last line was like, we just like saying the name.
We just like saying it. Yeah, the name. That's it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to put an explicit warning on this episode. All right. So anyway, let's get back to the life of Charles Visser. All right. So you ended up doing a bunch of storyboards on the spring break special and the Halloween special, and then we went to doing stuff on Animaniacs. Developing. Were you developing on Animaniacs too? Were you doing any?
I was doing
designs
going over animation poses and stuff like that, and mostly just the development stuff.
Right.
When they were still trying to finalize what the characters look like,
right,
how they should walk and act. So I was doing that.
Right. I know Alfred Gimeno and Kim Boyer were pretty much designing the characters, like coming up with the final. But,
yes.
But those characters, the Animaniacs characters, ended up becoming a lot of different things before they actually finalized on Mickey Mouse with whiskers.
I think at one point they were foxes.
Yeah. But they were ducks originally.
Oh, were they ducks? Okay.
They were ducks. Yeah. A bunch of different ducks. And then, no, that won't work. And then, I think there was a thing with foxes. I think, why do I recall Mark Perry doing some different things?
He was there at the time.
I know.
He was probably doing something. I think it was Mark Perry, Mike Fontanelli.
Yeah. Mike Fontanelli from Spumco. I think Mark Perry went to Spumco too. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of different things kind of thrown out. And I, once they finalized like the Animaniacs characters, I figured, I might as well just do a walk cycle with these guys because I was just bored out of my mind. So that's what I was doing. They were very happy with what I did, but
you kept them very bouncy. They were going for that sort of 30s, not so much rubber hose, but they were going for that sort of 30s look.
Yeah, with a fun walks and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so,
and I think a lot of us were doing that.
Yeah. So when we finally got on Animaniacs, what you were storyboarding. So do you remember the first episode you storyboarded on Animaniacs? Or we're going way back here, Charles.
Yeah, I mean,
we're going back to the Stone Age.
I know I switched units again too. I switched from Byron to Alfred.
Okay. Well, I ended up working for Alfred, but I was with Rusty Mills for a little bit.
Yeah. Rusty had his own crew, and Rich became producer. So people moved around. And I think one of the first things I did was Pinky and the Brain.
Oh, wow.
I got Pinky and the Brain. Can't remember what it was. All I know, it was the plan where they do I guess it was like a War of the Worlds type thing.
Right.
And they're doing Orson Welles broadcast, and I think that was one of my first episodes.
Wow.
That.
I thought you were going to say, yeah, it was the one where they tried to take over the world. You know, like, oh, that one.
Well, I hate to say it, but sometimes you got egged on something.
Yeah.
So I was really happy when I got a Pinky in the Brain, because everybody wanted Pinky in the Brains.
Oh, yeah.
But then I got pegged as the Rita and Runt guy.
Oh, lucky you.
So I ended up doing 2 or 3 Rita and Runts, and I think it was like, Mittens for Kittens or something like that.
Right.
But fortunately, Tom liked to give Alfred the Warner Brothers. So once I started working for Alfred, I started doing Warner Brothers.
Yeah, they were more fun to do, I think.
They're more fun to do.
I remember they saddled me with a Chicken Boo. I got stuck with a director I wasn't too happy with, and I think it was a punishment. He said, "Here, do this." It's like, you son of a, So, and he continued to give me assignments that I didn't like, and then I finally I got fed up, and then I didn't get fed up. Disney offered me a job to work on new Mickey Mouse cartoons.
Oh yeah.
With Dale Bear, I was going to work with Dale Bear, who was great. He was great. He was a great artist, and he actually called me and asked me if I wanted to work on him, and I was like, oh, absolutely. That was like my dream project, Oh,
sure.
So I gave my notice, and about a week and a half later, they called me, and I was leaving that Friday to come over, and they go, can you stay at Warner's? And I was like, huh? And they said Jeffrey Katzenberg pulled the plug on the project. They're going to do a whole bunch of new Mickey Mouse cartoons. And so that was heartbreaking, but at the same time, I was like, oh, crap. And I was like, well, if I'm not going to do that, I'd rather stay here, And so I had to grovel for my job back. And so they had already hired somebody, took over my position.
But that's when you started working. You were working with us and with Alfred.
Yeah. They said there's an opening in Alfred Gimeno's unit. And so it actually worked out in when you look back and you go, because I was just like, oh, I didn't want to be without work, No. And I actually enjoyed working at Warner's, but, with the Mickey Mouse project, I told him, I said, that was kind of my dream to work back in the Stone Age on this stuff. And so I told him, I really do like working here. It's just that it just seemed like something that I shouldn't pass up. But now, I said, Jeffrey Katzenberg pulled the plug, and there's no other place I'd rather be. And they bought it.
Well, there was a respect for the artist there, and that's one thing I will say about Warner Brothers and the management at that time.
Right,
is Gene McCurdy and Tom Ruger, that group of people, they loved us artists.
Yeah, they did.
They knew it.
They did.
Best executives.
Well, I'll tell you what. So they put me in Alfred Gimeno's unit, which was a godsend at the time, because I just was, I was ready to blow my head off.
You were working with me.
I was working with you and Joey Banaskowitz, and and we had a party over there. But we did.
So that's boring. Boy, we had a great old time.
We had a great old time. But that, I think that Friday when they said to me, "Yeah, you're going to be working with Alfred," I had to leave early, so I was like hightailing it out around 4:00. So, which, you're supposed to be there till 6, right? So I get on the elevator, I hop on the elevator, and who's on the elevator? I mean, I just walked on the elevator. I couldn't turn around and walk out. It was Gene McCurdy. And I was like, oh crap. I just gave my notice. They took me back, and now I'm leaving at 4:00 with Gene McCurdy. And the president of Warner Brothers Animation. And so we're riding down. I go, and so I'm trying to be cool about it. I'm going, hi, Gene. And she goes, hi, Brian. And we're getting down to the bottom floor, and I'm like sweating. I swear my clothes were like just, melting. And so we finally get down to the bottom floor, and she turns to me and she goes, "I'm glad you're staying, Brian." And then she walked out. She walked off the elevator.
That's
and
good.
I was like, yeah, so all turned out well. So, but I think that's where we came up with an idea for a show, which was basically, remember they wanted to do a show at some point.
Studio show?
The studio show, which was basically a bunch of us caricatured.
Yeah, well, there was some stories, and I don't know if you remember the famous Warner Brothers lunch, Brian.
Which one was this? Was I there?
The one where we spent probably 2 or 3 lunches on the Warner Brothers lot.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
And I know we had coming out of
yes, I remember
a
this.
store or something.
Right.
And we should be there, but Gene McCurdy and
with some executive.
With some executives, I think it was like,
some other executive walking down the street, and then we kind of hightailed it.
Yeah, well, someone, I think that was you, go, "Oh my God, it's Gene," and started doing a cartoon scramble. Lane, followed by a bunch of other artists. They're going, "What? Oh, run!"
A bunch of idiots running down the Warner Brothers lot.
Like 4 or 5 idiots.
It was Animaniacs in real time. Yeah.
And I know she saw us.
Oh, yeah, we have to go this way.
Do you have any questions or comments about the podcast? Please email Brian at cartoonerific.com. Your email may be featured in one of our future shows. The Cartoonerific podcast has been now available on Studios present Cartoonerific podcast. Cartoonerific is the place to be.
All right. Jeez. Can't get a word in edgewise. What the heck is going on? Thank you, Charles Visser, for that most entertaining interview. Come on, audience, give it up. Yes. Okay, cut it. So if you didn't realize it yet, this is the first part of a 2-part interview. Part 2 will be next week, so stay tuned for that. I know I say this from week to week, and I know you're probably tired of hearing it, so let's just do it this one more time until next time. If you really like what you're listening to, please subscribe. Go to your favorite service and hit the subscribe button for the Cartoonerific podcast so that the next time the Cartoonerific podcast is on, you'll be alerted. That's what I keep telling you, so please do that. If you really like what you're listening to, please tell a friend. And that's always a big compliment, so please do that. Anyway, we have some very, very interesting guests coming up in the next couple of weeks, and I think you'll be happy to hear from them. So once again, this is Brian Mitchell. Thank you for tuning in. Hope to see you next time. Take care and have a great week.
This has been a Cartoonerific Studios presentation.
The Cartoonerific podcast is copyright 2024 by Cartoonerific Studios Incorporated. All rights reserved.